Good afternoon. So today we're talking about Unit 7.1, looking at the Industrial Revolution. We've come a long way from the very beginning of world history where people were foraging, searching for food, and making things out of the very bare necessities. And now we're entering a time period in which life is going to grow exponentially. And if you think about the machines and the technology and the different tools that you have at your disposal, for instance, the idea that we can have distance learning, that you have computers, that we have PowerPoint, all of this comes as a result of this thing that is known as the Industrial Revolution. So the Industrial Revolution begins in Great Britain. And we're looking that in the early 18th century, so in 1700, people have used up most of the natural resources. The trees are gone because they've used all the trees to build houses and buildings, ships, things like that. They've used trees for cooking, for heating. So all of the natural resources are going away, and in search for something else to burn, they discover that there's this black stone that's near the surface of the earth that we know of today as coal. And so they began using the coal to recognize that they could burn it, they could heat it, other things begin to happen. And so you start seeing this industrial revolution happen in Great Britain. And the reason that you see it happening in Great Britain is because of many reasons. Great Britain has a shortage of wood, there's the abundance of coal. Also, there's political stability, not something we've talked a lot about in England because there's been a lot of violence and discrepancies between king and church and then peasants. But there is some political stability that is going on, and you start seeing that there's this limited monarchy. So people have the freedom to try new things, to establish new ways of business and life. We also start seeing the system of free enterprise, whereas you have the opportunity to create your business and the government is going to have limited involvement, that laissez-faire attitude that we've looked at in the past. Also in Great Britain, we have the four key components of this thing that's known as factors of production. What is needed to start a business? What is needed to be successful? You have to have land. You have to have labor. In other words, you have to have a place that allows you the opportunity to build. You have to have people to help you build. You have to have money to start the business of paying people and paying for the materials. And then you have to have entrepreneurship. Somebody's going to help you get involved. So these wealthy landowners begin buying up farmland, and then they can basically try new tools, try new things out to allow them to become successful. And by the way, this is going to really do a lot for industrialization as it relates to the increased population. Think about this. In 1700, before we really get to fossil fuels and coal, the world had a population of 670 million people. Today, in 2020, we're over 7 billion people. So in 300 years, roughly, look at what's happened, and all of this comes because of this opportunity to use different resources to become successful. So we need to give thanks for this. We understand that this whole idea of steam engines comes about because of a man whose name was James Watt, when he recognizes in Great Britain that they're using all of the trees, but that there's this coal, and as these guys are digging the coal out of the mines, water keeps pouring in. So James Watt comes in and creates what's known as the steam engine, which more quickly and efficiently pumps water out of coal mines to allow better use of getting to the natural resource. You have British colonies in North America that are producing lots of cotton. And so we start to see the steam engine being attached to these spindles and cotton thread machines. And so all of a sudden, now these British colonies are easily outproducing India, and we establish factories that start to happen. You then have the railroads that start to take place, which will spur on industrial growth by giving manufacturers a cheaper way to transport goods, a faster way to get those goods available. This allows people to necessarily move, or allows people to move out of the city. They can move into other areas and travel back and forth into the city to work. So transportation improving through the use of steam engines will greatly enhance the whole idea of business in the world during this particular period. So what's the impact? What ultimately happens? Well, the first thing we have is this imperialism. Of course, Great Britain, they don't want to just give their stuff away, but they want to use their items, but they also want to have control over those items. They need a steady supply of raw materials from less developed lands, and so they say basically to these lower developed countries, hey, the only way that we're going to be able to help you is if you allow us to use your resources. You give us the cotton and we'll make the clothes. You give us the oil and we'll make this. So we start seeing this imperialism, I'm better than you, that starts to develop, which is so important because that's going to lead to one of the big issues as it surrounds World War I. We also see the transformation of society. You start seeing more of an interest in the working class instead of the aristocrats or the aristocracy higher in. We have this urbanization, which leads to more workers, more people leaving their farms, coming to the city. That causes cities to double, to triple, quadruple in size. London all of a sudden becomes the largest city in Europe. We have new social classes that are arise. The middle class is now going to be seen as managers, those who are operating factories and mines, whereas the working class are those who are working in the factories and the mines. But even though we see this rise in industry, we see the rise in building of machines, we do not see the rise in success for those working in those facilities. During this time, these individuals will work in some very, very bad situations, but they'll live in horrific places. And that's one of the things that you can see through the industrialization. It's a blessing, but it's also a curse. These workers, they have a job. They're thankful for that, but they're getting paid nothing. And it leads to horrible living conditions where they would live without any type of sanitation, very little drinking water, no restroom facilities. People would take their trash, they would throw it out in the yard. That would invite all kinds of rodents to come in and live among them, which then leads to illness and disease and sickness. But while there were a lot of negatives, there are some positives. We'll start to see that there will be reforms that will be issued to help people who are working in the factories to get a little better pay, to have a little better living conditions. You can buy more things, cheaper prices, better educational opportunities. So there's a lot of positives, but there also are some negatives with industrialization as well. One of the final things that I did want to share with you before we depart from this is that there are individuals who are working, and if you'll notice in this picture right here, that as these factories develop, the managers hired children to work in the factories for multiple reasons. First of all, children were smaller than an average adult. That way, if one of the machines broke, say for instance one of these machines broke here, then a child had smaller hands, smaller arms to be able to get in and to access the broken parts. They could actually crawl in there and fix that. But the problem with that also was that an individual could get easily harmed by that. Numerous stories of children getting their arms stuck in these machines and having to have their arms amputated, getting killed because a belt gets loose and would hit a child in their head. So while they would use these young children to work, also it was not a safe environment. The other thing, you could pay children less. Children earn very little compared to a working man because the working man needed money to feed his family and to take care of his family, whereas a child earned money, didn't really need it, and so they could pay the child less. They didn't have the education, they didn't have the background, so you could pay them less. The third thing is that workers use this as a nursery, as a babysitting. You couldn't take them to a child care or to a nanny, so parents would bring their children to work, and the managers thought, why not put these workers in the factory working? So we start to see child labor become very, very dominant in England, but also in America, which will lead to the 1800s having, or excuse me, the 18th century having to come in and to bring about laws and rules to make sure that children are not harmed and that they are taken care of while they are working.